Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Friday, early Friday. Wow. It all seems difficult. And Tom, here's my frustration this morning. See my nice little bowl of oatmeal with blueberries in it? Not even eaten yet. And the way I've scheduled my morning, I don't know when I'm going to get to eat it. Quite frustrating to me. My oatmeal is my grounding force.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you'll find a time. We'll figure that out.
Yeah. I may let you talk and just sort of, it could happen.
Might not be a super entertaining show, but who knows? Maybe that's what people want to see.
That's it. And we should thank people. Those of you who have gotten up early this morning, we really appreciate it. Totally honored that you've chosen to spend time with us this morning. And if you're someone who's never spent time with us because, you're usually moving around by 8 o'clock, want to welcome you. This is today's Antidote. Tom and I have been doing this, as the promo says at the beginning, since March of 2020. It started as a way for the two of us to just get through difficult days. We knew we needed a reason to get up and get going each day. We wanted to help each other, something we had done at Coffee's for almost 10 years. And one thing led to another. We're at 340 some odd episodes of this thing, doing it every weekday morning. And it's been a real eye-opener to me all that time, and I think to Tom as well, just to really talk through some of the issues that entrepreneurs, business leaders, nonprofit professionals struggle with every day. We're not experts. We're just trying to give people strategies. We're trying to talk them through how they can do these things better. So the name, today's Antidote, by the way, was our way to say that each day we want to come up with one thing, just one thing that you can think about, ponder, maybe change in your world so that you can be more effective in what you're trying to do. Because we believe anyone, that's you, all of you, can carve your own unique pathway towards success, whatever that looks like to you. I don't care if you want to work every other Tuesday and every other Thursday. I don't care if you want to work for 6 months and then be at the beach for 6 months. I don't care if you want to write the great American novel and work your full-time job. We can help you with all those things. And we're seeing people of all sorts actually achieve those kinds of results. How's that for an opener, Tom?
That was pretty good. You did a nice job there.
Thank you. I'm trying to take your job away.
Well, there are a couple things you didn't include, which is all right.
It's a private group. Oh, no, that's later. Sorry.
No, I would just offer that, as we go through our discussion, we have a topic every week. As we go through our discussion, we hope that if you have something you'd like to add, you'll put it in the comments. And at the end, if you would like to add your one thing about our topic, we know that will add value for someone else. Because for all of us, everything is going to be different, and it's going to impact us in a different way based on what is our own knowledge, experience, and perspective. And so by you also sharing your one thing, it might be the one thing that someone else needs, that they needed to hear today to help them figure out what is the next step that they're going to take on their own unique pathway to success. So thank you for being a part of our show today and in past shows and hopefully in future shows as we try to help figure out our own unique pathway to success. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, got everybody up to speed, let's talk a little bit. This week's topic has been reentry. And again, if you haven't been with us all week, last week we talked about stepping away and the value of stepping away from the day-to-day of what you do, whether that is through vacation, whether it's through just a little bit of time off or sort of a micro step away because you just need to get away from your desk or away from your team, or it's stepping away from that day-to-day to think more strategically about what you're trying to accomplish. And so anytime we do that, we also obviously have to re-enter at some point. We have to come back into that workspace. And so figuring that out, I think, has been part of our discussion this week, and talking a little bit about what does it look like? What are the challenges? What are the times when it completely blows up? And how do you figure out how to leverage it to make it as effective as possible so that you are not wasting time and losing sort of the opportunity to benefit from that time for stepping away. So as we've gone through the week, Bob, what are some of your thoughts about reentry?
I think the biggest thing to me is that the people I've talked to all week have found this a very interesting topic. This is not one that they think about very much. As someone said to me a couple of days ago, I don't think I mentioned it. They said, what choice do you have? You have to go back to work. It's like,
Maybe.
well, you
have
have a choice. You don't have to. I also suggested that you have a choice in how you approach it. And we talked to someone yesterday at our Renegade Roundup networking event who had the brilliant suggestion of, hey, when I come back to work, I tell people I'm going to start back on Tuesday, even though I'm coming back on Monday, so that I can manage that reentry. You know, much like if you remember the astronauts, they used to fly and then they'd land and then they'd be in quarantine for a while.
Mm-hmm.
As they re-entered, because especially when they were in the space shuttle, they had to get used to our gravity. And so they had to learn to walk again, not like they couldn't walk, but they had to build up their tolerance and all that stuff. So they had a powerful re-entry mechanism that was planned from the start. You know, they knew that they weren't going to land the space shuttle and then be home for dinner with the family the next night. They knew it might be, you know, a week, 10 days. That was built in because NASA knew those astronauts could not go from one environment to the other without a re-entry process. And I think that's a lesson for all of us, that we all need some sort of re-entry process. And those of us who just go, well, I got to go back to work Monday, it's going to be a mess, probably bring that on all those people around us, which would only make people more frustrated when we take a vacation and then we come back, sorry, the grass is being cut next door, because it can be.
Sure.
So many things to say, but I will let go. But I think that whole reentry process is important to think about. And the better we do that, especially if we're dealing with other people in our work, whether it's customers, whether it's employees, whether it's other vendors, managing that probably is one of the ways to really show professionalism and really build a relationship. You know,
Sure.
Over the week, we talked about the idea that, you know, if you went on this great trip to Bali and you came back and showed people all your great photos, oh, it's so amazing, and your employees that you're showing it to don't have the means to do that, that could create problems for you and them. That's not helping. And I would argue in that case, you lose all the benefit of getting away, because now you put a wedge between you and the people around you.
Sure.
What are your thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, I think, what you were getting at is communication, which is an important part of this. And I think that was one of the things that I discovered about how we can be better in terms of communicating what that's going to look like and planning for it. It was interesting. I shared a post about this on LinkedIn yesterday, and I was surprised, I guess, that many people don't think about the reentry process. And it makes sense. You know, typically you're at such a point where you're just ready to be away. And again, whether that's you just need to step away from your desk because you've been laser focused on something, or it's been a long time since your last vacation and you need to get away, that you don't even think about, like, what am I going to do when I come back? It's like, oh yeah, I got to come back at some point. And like you said, it'll be a mess. And I think that the real power in being intentful, having intent, when you come back makes a lot of sense. And the more we talked about it yesterday at the networking event, the more I got thinking about some really positive ways that you could make that intentional, you know, where maybe you block off the morning so that people aren't just going to pop in, because you know how it goes, whether it's a weekend away, or, you know, maybe you went to a concert that night and came back the next I couldn't tell if you were going to sneeze or yawn, and I thought I was boring you with mine.
No,
Or maybe you were up late.
I'm sorry. It's a weird year. I don't know if you get allergies, but I haven't had allergies until the last 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Usually by now they're gone.
Yeah, might have been a little acting up. Anyhow, so I think that's there are ways that we can step back into it. How do we intentionally let our teams, the people we work with, the people we're connected with, know that we want to catch up without overburdening them with what's going on and feel like just because we've been away, we need to go and have them tell us everything that's happened while they're trying to do their day. And I think it's that being intentional about how are you going to come back to whatever the space might be and what is that first step you're going to take so that when you get in there, you can be effective. I mean, I can clearly remember when I would come back for a vacation or one of my team members would come back from a vacation, the first 40 minutes of the day were spent, every person they would run into, because it was a small shop typically, would ask them like, hey, tell me about your vacation. It must have been great. And before you know it, it's 10 o'clock, 10:30, and you haven't really gotten anything done. And many of the people around you haven't either because they care and they want to show they're interested. And so they ask you questions. And before you know it, you've just spent a lot of time retelling the same story. It's so funny now that I say that. It reminds me of going back to college. And, you go away for the summer or for a break. And every person you see, the question is, how was your break? How was your break? And it used to be funny as an administrator when I worked at a college, as the students or other people would go, oh, how was your break? And we're like, we were pretty much here every day.
Yeah.
Didn't really have that kind of a break, and it just became this, like, that's the way it was. And so you would stop somebody along the walkway or pathway or in your dorm, and you'd have this long conversation about what happened over your break, whatever that might have been. And I think that is just human nature. We want to know. So how do we control that? It'd almost be like if there was a big bulletin board that says, okay, everybody, post what happened on your break. Go find your friends and you can figure it out. And then you don't have to dive into that whole conversation at all. Right. Or you can at least take it to a deeper level. Like, well, I spent my summer working at this internship and blah, 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 blah. Okay, now that I know that, if we're close friends, I can be like, okay, now we can dive into that further to better understand it, not just the cursory, well, the people I know. Of course, I'm going to ask that because that's the easy question to ask.
I wonder, though, Tom, in this day of social media and everything you do is photographed, if by the time you get to the college dorm, everyone knows everything you did because you've posted 88 photos of you in every possible pose in front of the museum with the really nice dinner, with the great dessert, with the guy that you met or the girl that you met, with the, Uber driver, sunset over the beach. I know so much more about the people around me because of what social media provides. I wonder if that discussion changes now in some ways.
Probably does. I mean, we're a little older, so that wasn't around when we were in those. Or typically when I was working, that was not as much. People weren't always sharing all of that, and I guess that's a way that you communicate today is through sharing what happened when you step away. Whether again that's going to a conference and hear all the photos and hear all the great things that we did, or you actually do step away and say, hey, I just need a little break, and then we took a vacation. This is what we did. So I think that's part of the communication piece. And yet I still would imagine those are still the questions that people get asked, because a picture tells one story. And then there's always the other thing.
I'm putting up Tim's comment. We're a little older.
The state of mind.
On a Friday morning when it's 7 a.m., I feel a little older. And I think that's John saying good morning and Tim said good morning. So thank you guys. Welcome. Happy to be here. Happy to be with you. So Tom, you talked about intention a little earlier. And I'm wondering, is that your one thing for the week when we get to the culmination point?
It's yes. And I have a part B.
Okay,
because
go ahead.
The piece that I hadn't really thought about was as much the communication. and how valuable that can be and how impactful it can be. You never think about, hey, I went and did this great thing. And again, sometimes that's a retreat. Sometimes it's just stepping away to really focus on what are we going to do next. Maybe it's a conference where you're going to learn things. And I always thought about it or a vacation. I always thought about it isn't it great to be able to share that? And for people to be able to know. I hadn't thought about the impact it had on them. I hadn't considered their perspective. Like you said, maybe they can't experience that, or the company doesn't allow for them to do professional development. So you got to go off to Vegas or Orlando or Austin, Texas, or wherever usually conferences are held in super nice places that are fun to be. And you get to tell about all the cool things you did while they were not have that opportunity. And I think that piece of it, as well as the piece of, trying to really be intentional about when do you allow those conversations to happen, or do those conversations take over your reentry process? And so I think that communication piece is like the part B, is to be intentional about how you're going to reenter, and also intentional on how you communicate what happened while you were away, so that others can benefit as a whole and not feel like they were left out.
And I think we're going to see that same friction point in businesses where some people can work at home all the time now. Some people are going to work at home and be in the office, that hybrid approach. And then there's going to be that person who's at the front door who's got to answer the door, and they're working 40 hours a week and they don't get to work at home. And I think if the person who has that hybrid schedule goes, oh, so great, I won't be back until Tuesday, I'm going to work at home and I can sit on my back porch and enjoy the sun. That person who's in the office, there's going to be a real friction there. And I think it's the same thing when we go on vacation. It's the same thing when we go to conferences. So really having that communication. And my one thing would be being aware of how you interact with other people and what that looks like for them. We come back from a vacation, we come back from a conference, we're all excited, we got away, we cleared our head. Those people around us didn't have that luxury. Mm-hmm. And really trying to find that middle ground, that, maybe not telling them what you discovered at the conference for a couple of days. Get back into the routine, and then hey, why don't we go grab a cup of coffee after work? I want to tell you a couple of things I discovered while I was away, rather than blowing in their Monday morning. Oh, the conference was the greatest thing in the world. I can't believe it.
And I think it also can be overwhelming.
Yes.
Because they didn't have the same experience or gain the same knowledge. And so it's very hard for you to replicate that to them. And if you just come in and be like, oh, hey, I went to this conference, and I can remember this. Regularly, people would come back from a conference and they would have to implement something right away. And we'd be like, all right, I'm not 100% sure why, and I don't know.
Or what?
Really, right. We can do this, but okay, because you learned it and you saw that somebody else was doing it, we have to try it. Yeah. And I think those are some of the pitfalls of the more knowledge, experience, perspective we gain sometimes is not applicable to the situation that we are in. It's great for us to have it as a resource, and to also understand that we may not be in the same place to be able to leverage those things based on our organization, our team, or the work that we're trying to accomplish.
Tom, a couple more comments. John says, I don't think there will be a front door. He may very well be right. Although I was with them a couple of days ago and we were knocking on a lot of front doors. So at least now there's still front doors. And he suggests that we save the office expense. And do you need to know why? And so with that, Tom, want to tell people next week we're going to tackle another really great topic. We're going to talk about some of the stumbling blocks that we come up with when we're running a business or when we're leading a team. And we're going to talk about them very openly, honestly. Tom and I are going to bring some examples from our own lives into the discussion. And I think it'll be a great week of just, oh, wow, I'm not alone. Because one of the things I find often is I feel like I'm the only person facing these challenges. And one of the things I've learned from working with Tom over the last 10 years and engaging with him is like, oh, wait, you're having that issue? Oh, okay. Let's solve it together. So we're going to talk about some of those issues next week. And that's all next week, Monday through Friday. So you can join us back 8 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. And Tom, I know you love to wrap this baby up. So wrap this baby up, put it in a bow.
Sure. Thanks so much for being a part of our conversation today. We hope that you found something that could be valuable today, or maybe somewhere down the line that you just added to your knowledge, experience, and perspective. And if you have your one thing, please feel free to share it in the comments, or you can share it inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. If you are not yet a member, it's easy to join. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades. And then you do have to ask to join, because it is a private group where we're trying to create a space where people can have those conversations, can be open and understanding about what's going on in our own unique situations. The question you just have to answer to join is why you're a renegade. So then you can become a part of our growing group, trying to help people take their next step on their own unique pathway to success. So I hope that everyone has a great weekend. We hope that we will see you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you next week, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of today's Antidote. And if you'd like to learn more about the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, here's some further information about what we're trying to do inside that group. Have a great day, have a great weekend, and we will see you Monday morning.
Carving your own path is tough. You want and need a community to offer you insights and advice, share inspiration, provide support, and save you time and money. But where do you find all that? Here's the easy answer: the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners identify their next steps. Here's some of what you will find at the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Just go to ringofrenegades.com and join today. Find and accomplish those next steps.